name is Malcolm Purkey, and I think that I usually say I've had 4 big lives. I taught at Wits for 20 years. I then went to the Market Theatre as Artistic Director for 9. I then was recruited to AFTA to become their very first Johannesburg Dean. And from 1976 until 1999, I was a founder, first writer and first director of Junction Avenue Theatre Company. So one of the plays that Junction Avenue Theatre Company made in 1986 was called Sophiatown, and it tells the story of a young Jewish girl who's invited by a black journalist to go and live in Sophiatown before it was destroyed by the apartheid regime. And we built this story, and we had a lot of very brilliant native informants such as Don Matera and many people in Europe and Britain, as well as locals, and including people whose houses were broken down. One person in particular told us a very poignant story about her plates and her cups being destroyed before her eyes as they break her house down. And Sophiatown became immediately a very, very popular piece of work, and very soon it was published by Wits University Press in its most recent editions. And I used to do all the management of the royalties because there were 14 authors on this project. And at that stage, I thought I wasn't quite sure about what DALRO would do or could do. But eventually I understood that I couldn't manage my own royalties or the royalties of the team. And so I went to DALRO, and I'm extremely thankful that I did lodge all of Junction Avenue plays with DALRO. We work with Wits University Press and with DALRO very closely, and I'm very, very grateful for both of these institutions and the way they work together. And also, I'm extremely grateful to tell you that when Sophiatown was made a national set work for advanced English second language, or whatever they call it these days, across the country, we boosted sales from about 1,000 a year to about, I think, 800,000 in one year, the very first year. And DALRO managed that all impeccably. It was very difficult to manage the royalties. We had certain percentage splits. I was entitled as the first writer and director to 30% of any income, and then the balance had to be divided between the other 13 writers. And it involved yearly maths and yearly analysis, and I also had to be sure that all the recipients received their money, and I also had to be sure that no one was upset with my slightly inadequate accounting. So you can say that DALRO does all of that extremely well, and I'm very, very grateful for DALRO's contribution. It certainly allowed me to believe that institutions such as DALRO have a place, a very important place. It made me understand that having a management team carefully managing money, managing trusts, analyzing what happens with wills, analyzing what happens with distribution of money, I couldn't do any of that, and DALRO's done it with nothing but the highest level of professionalism. Well, in the early days, I used to go to the offices before COVID, and I really enjoyed my visits, and there were 1 or 2 people that I became quite close to, and some of them I've even taught at Wits. And I have to say that I enjoy the personal connection. I enjoy the fact that people from DALRO have actually been in this house to select work for the distribution or the display at the opening, and I'm delighted to have welcomed them here. I really enjoy working with DALRO because I get a sense of personal attention. I mean, WhatsApp communication with some of your officials, and I like the instant response, the willingness to immediately sort out any queries I've had. I mean, as money gets tighter, we all need more money. So when I get into an anxious position, I'm probably always WhatsApping too early. There are certain times in the year when payouts are made, and I always forget. So somewhere around March, April, I'm already starting to ask, where's my money? Where's my money? I would recommend DALRO services to anybody who has a written text, whether it's published or not, including, of course, anything to do with literature, of course. But in particular, the management of theatre scripts, whether published or not, and that's an important point. if anything should happen in the future, there should be a much stronger connection between DALRO and the world of teaching of dramatic literature and drama, because I believe there's a mutual interest in ensuring that the next generation of scholars, learners, get access to all the theatre that has been created in our most powerful theatre tradition. Well, it gives me great pleasure to acknowledge DALRO's new space, to acknowledge the powerful work they've done, and wish DALRO nothing but all the most wonderful success right into the next century.